Tom's cane snapped with a cruel crack under the laughing fists of a teenage bully, silence crashing down like a storm over the schoolyard. The symbol of his sacrifice shattered, leaving him vulnerable, humiliated, and alone. But what happened next will shock even those who thought they'd seen everything. But first, let's go back to the beginning. Tom stood frozen, his chest tightening as the shards of his broken cane lay scattered at his feet. The pain in his leg flared, but it was nothing compared to the ache gnawing at his pride. That cane wasn't just a piece of wood. It was a testament to every grueling patrol, every bullet dodged, every friend lost in distant deserts and foreign hills. It had been the only thing steadying him through the worst of nights, the unrelenting companion that turned his faltering steps into something resembling strength. Now it was reduced to splinters by the hands of kids who saw only weakness. His breath came in ragged pulls, the cold morning air sharp against the rawness inside him. Tom's gaze locked on the retreating figures of Jake and his gang, their laughter echoing cruelly, like a blade twisting inside his gut. There was a familiar, bitter surge rising. Anger, yes, but deeper still, a raw, guttural pain that wasn't just physical, but something primal. It was the sense of being violated, disrespected in the most fundamental way. In combat, he had faced death and despair with a soldier's resolve, but this broken symbol of his suffering and survival, shattered in seconds by reckless cruelty, felt like a betrayal of everything he'd endured. For a moment the world seemed to narrow down to the pounding in his leg, the sting in his eyes, and the fractured cane. He gritted his teeth, steadying himself with his remaining strength. His hands trembled, not with weakness, but with a furious determination. Tom had never been a man to back down, especially not to bullies hiding behind the safety of a crowd, and juvenile bravado. The lessons of war, discipline, patience, resilience, fought against the surge of indignation threatening to overwhelm him. Around him, whispers swirled like smoke. Some students looked away, uncomfortable. Others watched with thinly veiled amusement, like spectators witnessing a fall from grace. But Tom saw beyond their faces, the fear, the confusion, the simmering doubts about who he really was now. The veteran who once commanded respect, now vulnerable, standing broken in the schoolyard. It wasn't just about the cane. It was about the invisible battle scars, the gulf between past and present, and the struggle to reclaim authority in a place where his uniform was replaced by a faded jacket and a substitute teacher badge. Slowly Tom bent down, gathering the jagged fragments of the cane, his fingers brushing over the splinters as if touching old wounds. He thought of the desert sun scorching his back, the cold nights wrapped in silence, broken only by distant gunfire, and the faces of the men he had sworn to protect. They hadn't broken. He wouldn't break now, but the weight of his loss settled deep in his bones. A reminder that some battles were not fought with bullets or strategy, but with quiet endurance and the will to keep moving forward despite the damage. His eyes hardened with resolve. The anger burning inside was not aimless rage, but a forge, tempering him into something sharper, something ready. He would find a way to reach these kids, to break through the walls Jake had built, with pain and defiance. This moment, this fracture, would not define him. It would be the spark for something else, a fight not against enemy combatants, but against the cycle of fear and neglect that festered here, in the corridors of Jefferson High. As Tom rose unsteadily, the cold air no longer bit quite so harshly. The pain throbbed, but beneath it was something stronger, a flicker of purpose ignited by the ruins of what once was. His voice, when it came, was steady, but carried the weight of all he'd endured. He would not let this be the end, not today, not ever. News of the broken cane swept through Jefferson High with the swift, merciless velocity that only teenage rumor can muster. By midday, whispers had turned into conversations charged with conflicting emotions. Some spoke in hushed tones of sympathy for Tom Lawson, others with thinly veiled admiration for Jake Collins's audacity. The school's atmosphere became a battlefield of loyalties, the lines drawn sharper with every passing hour. Principal Carter found herself caught between the urgency to maintain order and the instinct to handle the matter delicately. She understood the volatility beneath the surface, the fragile fractures in these students' lives that no quick reprimand could mend. The tension was a powder keg, and she feared the slightest spark would ignite a blaze far beyond a broken cane. Jake's defiance wasn't born from mere rebellion, but from a deeper, gnawing resentment. His fury masked a cocktail of jealousy, frustration, and helplessness, a cocktail brewed from years of feeling invisible, overlooked, and trapped by the chaos of his fractured home. In Jake's world, respect was a currency he had never been able to earn honestly, and breaking Tom's cane was a reckless bid to seize control, to assert dominance where he felt powerless. Yet beneath that bluster, the boy's anger was a desperate shield against the shame of his vulnerability. Amid the swirling storm of gossip and mounting tension, Tom's phone rang unexpectedly one late afternoon. The voice on the other end belonged to the local Ranger Veterans Association, a tight-knit brotherhood bound by shared trials and unspoken sacrifices. They had heard of the disrespect dealt to one of their own and refused to let it stand unchallenged. Their intervention was not an act of intimidation, but a gesture of solidarity, a beacon of respect shining through the haze of misunderstanding and bitterness. The next morning, a contingent of former Rangers arrived at Jefferson High. Not as enforcers, but as living embodiments of courage, honor, and resilience, the very values Tom had carried into the classroom alongside his cane. The school assembly they arranged was unlike anything Jefferson High had seen before. The gymnasium, usually a cacophony of distracted chatter and restless feet, fell into a reverent hush as Tom took the stage. His voice was steady, but charged with raw honesty as he peeled back the layers of his story. Wounds etched not just on his body, but deep within his spirit. Tales of grueling nights and lost comrades, of battles fought both abroad and within. He spoke not to glorify war, but to illuminate the struggle behind every scar, the relentless pursuit of survival, and hope amid despair. His words cut through the haze of adolescent bravado, reaching into the hearts of even the most defiant students. Faces hardened by skepticism softened, eyes once filled with disdain flickered with something new, understanding, respect, perhaps even regret. At the back of the gym, Jake's posture shifted subtly. The shield he'd carried so fiercely, forged in anger and fear, showed the first signs of cracking. Listening to Tom's story, he glimpsed a reflection of his own battles, different in form, but echoing the same loneliness and need for recognition. For the first time, Jake saw beyond the chaos he caused and the walls he'd built around himself. The assembly did not erase his pain, but it planted a seed, a fragile hope that there might be a different way to claim respect, to be seen not as a troublemaker, but as someone worthy. The rising conflict had taken a new shape, no longer a simple clash of defiance and authority, but a complex, fragile dance of understanding and change. Jefferson High was still a powder keg, but in that moment, beneath the weight of stories shared and the silent reckonings, a spark of hope had been kindled, one that neither Tom nor Jake could yet fully grasp, but that would soon demand their courage to nurture. The gymnasium was nearly empty after the assembly, the echoes of Tom's story still lingering like a charged current in the air. Jake lingered near the exit, shoulders tense, fingers twitching nervously at the hem of his hoodie. The broken cane, once a symbol of humiliation and defiance, lay cracked and silent on the bench nearby, its shattered wood speaking volumes in the quiet room. Despite the heavy silence, Jake's eyes found Tom's steady gaze across the floor, an unspoken invitation to cross the divide that had long separated them. When Jake finally approached, his steps were hesitant, each one measured as if he were navigating a minefield of pride and fear. His voice came low, unsteady but genuine. "I'm sorry, Mr. Lawson. I didn't mean to. Things at home, they're... His words stumbled, revealing the chaos that churned beneath the surface of his bravado. Tom's eyes softened, reading the confession not as weakness, but as the raw truth of a boy desperate to be understood. Without hesitation, Tom extended a hand, an unspoken offer of acceptance, and the beginning of trust. That moment marked a shift as profound as it was fragile. With the backing of the Ranger veterans and Principal Carter, a mentorship initiative took root within Jefferson High, veterans paired with students wrestling with anger, pain, and disillusionment. It was more than a program. It was a lifeline, an attempt to channel restless energy into growth and discipline, to replace fractured respect with earned honor. Jake was among the first to join. The transformation was neither quick nor easy, days of frustration, setbacks, and quiet breakthroughs. But steadily, the boy who once wielded cruelty as armor began to discover strength in self-control and empathy. The broken cane, once a weapon of humiliation, took on new meaning. The Rangers presented Tom with a new cane, sturdy, polished, and emblematic of renewal, but the old one was preserved and mounted in the school's main hallway. There it stood, a silent sentinel and a tangible testament to the community's journey through pain, anger, and redemption. Students who once sneered at Tom's injury now paused, their eyes tracing the splintered wood, reminded daily that hardship could be met with resilience and respect. Word spread quickly, how a fractured cane had sparked an unlikely alliance, how a troubled youth had begun to lead rather than lash out, how the school had become a place where scars, visible and invisible, were honored, not hidden. Tom's quiet dignity inspired not just those who crossed his path, but the entire school community. The Rangers' presence became a symbol of steadfast support, a bridge between generations and experiences often divided by misunderstanding. By the end of the semester, Jefferson High's corridors echoed with a different rhythm, one of cooperation, mutual respect, and emerging hope. Students rallied around the shared cause of standing strong together, bound not by fear or division, but by a hard-won sense of justice and compassion. The mentorship program expanded, veterans and students alike discovering the power of connection and purpose. In the story that unfolded within those walls, the broken cane remained the most potent symbol, not of defeat, but of triumph, a reminder etched into the very fabric of Jefferson High. True strength is not found in breaking others down, but in standing tall alongside them, especially when the world tries its hardest to break you first. The legacy Tom and Jake forged together became a beacon for all who struggled, a testament to the enduring power of courage, understanding, and hope reborn from the ashes of conflict.